Greetings, my name is Jason Marcellus, and this story is what I like to call Connect the Dots. It simply means when you hear a group or an artist's music over different points in your life over many, many years, and you don't really get the full picture until a long time. It takes you a long time to get the full picture. This video is going to be about the group, the Beach Boys. When I was a kid, I had heard Beach Boys tunes from the 1960s, the popular fare, songs like Fun, 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 California Girls, Surfing USA, tunes of that nature. And honestly, the Beach Boys was a group that I could either take it or leave it. It was real campy, but I didn't really hate it, but I wasn't really a fan either. And so if I heard it, if it was on, I was like, oh, okay, yeah, Beach Boys. I recognized their sound. But then when I got to high school, right? This is like the mid 1990s. I'm in high school and I was listening to a radio show called Shickley Mix. It was hosted by Peter Shickley, who a lot of people know as PDQ Bach. And it was an NPR show. And the premise of it was he talked about elements of music and he played all kinds of music. For those of you who have taken the college class, music literature, yeah, it was like that. And so he was talking about constants and variety in music. And he says, okay, we're going to play these pieces that have nothing but variety. And he plays this song that has lyrics and it has all these different sections. And it's, it's a rock group, but it was nothing I recognized. They had different sections, different changes, tempo changes, and a lot of things going on. And when the song ends, he comes on and he says, that was Heroes and Villains, the Beach Boys. And I said, the Beach Boys? What? The Beach Boys? That sounded nothing like the songs that I'd heard, like Barbara Ann and I Get Around. That was not this at all. And then he proceeds to talk about the song and say, this was a song that was supposed to be on an album called Smile. It was the kind of album that was supposed to blow people's minds, but minds got blown in the band and Smile never happened, but the Beatles' Sgt. Pepper's Lonely Hearts Club Band did happen, and that became seen as the great rock album of the 1960s, and at that point, I am lost. Nothing that he is saying makes any sense. I'm just confused. I'm like, I don't know what this guy is talking about. So about maybe 5 years later or so, the channel VH1 had their 100 greatest albums of rock and roll. And the number 2 album on that list was Pet Sounds by the Beach Boys. And I said, okay, I don't know what these people are talking about, but okay. And I don't even remember much from the segment in terms of music. You had people talking about it, but honestly, I didn't really pay attention to it that much. But another, I guess, 5 years or so, I was on an airplane ride and they had their in-flight entertainment. And on the in-flight entertainment was the album Pet Sounds. And I said, man, I forgot about this record. I need to listen to this. And I put on headphones and pressed play. And the first song was Wouldn't It Be Nice? And Wouldn't It Be Nice starts. And I said, okay, this is Beach Boys, but this is, this is a little different from the music I heard. But I just remember when the bridge of the song started, that at that moment I said, oh, this is a serious record. Oh, okay. Now I understand what the hype was about when it came to this album. Just right away, just that alone, I said, yeah, this is not Little Deuce Coupe. This is not those songs. This is serious. And as the album went on, and these songs like, what is it? You Still Believe in Me, and Here Today, Gone Tomorrow. The album continued. I said, man, this album is making a statement. I mean, these songs are serious. The harmony is happening, and of course, there's the masterpiece on the album, God Only Knows, and Caroline No is great. I Just Wasn't Made for These Times. And there were these interludes with the horns that were incredible. And I just said, okay, now I see what the hype is all about. And so I went and bought the CD. And I remember going to a restaurant and I had the CD on the table. And this waitress comes up and says, oh, yeah, that's great. And then she says, he's coming out with Smile, right? Now I'm lost again because I thought Smile was not finished. What are you talking about? And the next time that I went into a record store, this may have been like months later, I walked in back when we had those, and I see these CDs on display, and it's the CD says, Brian Wilson presents Smile. And I said, okay, I'm going to have to check this out. And so there was a set that I saw that was a double. It was a CD and DVD. And the DVD was a documentary that was made. I said, you know what? I'm going to get this because I need to find out what on earth is going on. So I did watch the documentary, and they talked about the Beach Boys, and they talked about at the moment that the music was changing. And this is when I realized that a lot of the songwriting was from Brian Wilson. And Brian Wilson was the one that really had a vision of trying to be serious and make a statement with an album like Pet Sounds, for example, which ironically didn't sell a whole lot when it was released. And the band was like, nah, this is too serious. I mean, we're making money. I mean, we don't want to mess with the formula. And then when he did Smile, they were like, no, we're not doing this. And then they talked about how Smile was eventually finished and, it went through different arcs in his career. Now, I remember there was some background music during one part of the video where I thought, man, this background music, that must be his music. What is this? And I researched and found out that it was tunes from his first self-titled album as a leader that he made in 1988. And I went and said, man, let me check this record out. And there's great songs on that record. And it's an interesting record because at that time, that wasn't popular music, meaning it's not fashionable. In 1988, Michael Jackson's Bad is popular. Prince, The Sign of the Times, like that's what's popular. But Brian Wilson wasn't popular. He had an audience, he had a following, but that wasn't popular music. But there's great songs on that album. And so, with listening to Pet Sounds and Smile and then eventually Brian Wilson, it was at that moment that I realized how great of a songwriter that Brian Wilson was.